I wouldn't know what to do. My son get a murder charge, bro. Like, I gotta stop him from crashing out, bro. Like,
Boo's crash out has officially crossed into dangerous territory because his son is now being accused of trying to come at Kodak Black over a diss aimed at his dad, and the fallout has the entire hip-hop world tense and watching closely. What started as loud talk online quickly turned into something way more serious, especially after he allegedly got exposed for making real-life moves that caught the attention of law enforcement and sent shockwaves through the culture. Behind all those Instagram posts and tough guy captions, the reality looks a lot darker. Reports say Tootie Raw wasn't just talking reckless. He was allegedly moving around with switches, sawed-off shotguns, machine guns, and silencers. That kind of activity doesn't stay on social media. It lands straight in federal paperwork. Those moves reportedly led to heavy weapons charges and claims of threats aimed at multiple rappers, turning this whole situation into something far beyond music. On top of the weapons accusations, there's talk of willful obstruction involving law enforcement, which only adds more weight to an already serious case. These aren't minor charges that disappear overnight. This is the kind of situation where prosecutors don't play, and the time being discussed could stretch decades if everything sticks. What really pushed this beef to a boiling point is way more layered than most people realize. Sources claim there are messages floating around where Tootie allegedly said he can wait to catch a rapper and shoot him, and that alone sent alarms ringing everywhere. On top of that, there are claims he's been keeping tabs on Lil Crick since 2023, trying to move closer to making those threats real, which only escalated concern across the board. This isn't internet drama anymore.
I thought it was a lie. When I first saw it on Instagram, I got up, tried to call Kodak, but he must have had a new number. I called his brother, and I asked him, did Kodak do a song with 6ix9ine? He said, yeah, bro. Think so. It fucked me up, it hurt me. He asked me did I want to talk to Kodak. I told him I ain't want to talk to Kodak, or block Kodak. That was a detrimental move to him, bro. 6ix9ine is the most hated person in prison. By every race, what Kodak did, he's gonna have to stand on it.
This is the type of street situation that makes everyone nervous, because it can end with prison sentences, headlines, or both. And it's got the whole hip-hop community watching closely, knowing how fast things can spiral when emotions override logic. Social media has been on fire talking about Boo's son allegedly going full crash-out mode over a Kodak Black diss record. But here's where things get tricky. Not everything being shared online tells the full story. There are real timelines, real decisions, and real consequences behind the scenes that most people never bother to look into. According to the timeline, 2023 is when everything really started heating up, but the roots of this tension go back even further. Kodak Black was reportedly offered $1 million to collaborate on a track with Tekashi 6ix9ine, and like most artists chasing a serious bag, he took the deal. That single decision reportedly triggered a chain reaction that's still unfolding right now.
Me and all about to do a song with a nigga who, like, I don't even know the niggas he told on.
Went in on
and I ain't even from over there. Niggas some shit like, nigga, that's y'all rap. I know only nigga squeeze this nigga out some cheese, homie. Yeah. I know so do some shit like, bro, y'all ain't finna do nothing. Y'all ain't even squeeze a nigga out some money.
People can argue about loyalty and culture all day, but money talks loud in this industry. That collaboration reopened old wounds and sparked resentment that eventually turned into threats, charges, and a young man allegedly risking his entire future over pride. And before anyone tries to brush this off as just another rap beef, understand this part clearly. This involves a person facing serious federal gun charges while allegedly making direct threats toward known rappers while out on bond. That's not entertainment, that's a legal nightmare waiting to explode. This is the type of situation that doesn't end quietly. It ends with courtrooms, long sentences, or names etched into headlines for the worst reasons. And once the federal system locks in, there's no reversing that path. We're talking about someone who openly cooperated with authorities to protect himself, and that reputation still follows him everywhere. When Kodak accepted that deal, it sent shockwaves through street rap culture instantly, because lines that were once considered untouchable suddenly looked negotiable. But here's the real twist. 6ix9ine wasn't moving reckless. He was moving strategic, using big-name artists to clean up his image and prove that even respected rappers would cross lines if the price was right. Kodak went on Drink Champs and said something that had the whole culture frozen in disbelief. He basically said $1 million is $1 million. I don't even know the people he told on, and I'm not from that side. That's y'all's situation. That one statement flipped everything upside down. It showed that morals, street rules, and so-called principles suddenly get flexible when the number is high enough. But this wasn't just about one song or one check, and that's where people missed the bigger picture. This became a full-blown debate about whether street rappers can truly separate business from credibility. Kodak made it clear that street politics don't apply to him when money is involved, and that mindset split the hip-hop community straight down the middle. From a pure business angle, Kodak wasn't completely wrong at all. The music industry has always put profit first and politics second. Labels don't care about street codes, they care about numbers and revenue streams. But when your entire image is built on being authentic and real, taking money tied to the most controversial figure in rap history looks like a major contradiction. In street culture, cooperating with authorities is viewed as the ultimate violation, period. No resets, no forgiveness, no second chances. And that's why Boo's reaction hit so hard, because he's always been known as someone who speaks out against those violations, even when it costs him friendships or money. Boo reportedly called Kodak's brother directly to confirm if the collaboration was real.
I wouldn't know what to do. My son get a murder charge, bro. Like, I gotta stop him from crashing out, bro. Like, then it worried me more. All them lit around him clutching, man. You know, easy for something to happen, bro. Like, should be having me worried as a daddy, bro. Like,
once it was confirmed, Boo said it hit him personally, and he immediately cut Kodak off completely. That wasn't internet drama. That was real disappointment. Losing respect for someone you once viewed as solid cuts deep, and Boo made it clear that move changed how he saw Kodak forever. Boo also made it known that working with someone that controversial comes with consequences. His message was simple: stand on whatever decision you make. And culturally speaking, he wasn't wrong at all about the impact. Kodak's move didn't just affect him, it shifted the entire industry. It gave other artists silent permission to work with 6ix9ine, slowly weakening the long-standing anti-cooperation stance in hip-hop. And now the culture is stuck in a crossroads. On one side, you've got the old-school street code saying, there are no exceptions, no excuses, and no amount of money that makes it okay. On the other side, you've got modern rap culture where profit is king and principles come second.
now that you get older, you be like, bro, like, how the fuck you 40 years old still gotta look over your shoulder, you know, from your past. That's a fucked up feeling. When you gotta go especially when you go in your seat, you gotta look everywhere over your shoulder. Like, that shit wasn't worth it. The respect you got for anything you did ain't worth you being a older man looking over your motherfucking shoulder.
That's right.
Kodak's decision forced everyone to ask a hard question: are those old rules outdated? Or are artists just choosing money over meaning now? Some respected his honesty about chasing the bag, while others saw it as selling out everything that street rap once stood for. Either way, that single decision cracked open a conversation that still hasn't been settled, and the ripple effects are still being felt today. This deep divide is really what hip-hop stands on today, and it laid the groundwork for everything that followed. Fast forward to 2024, and Kodak Black is moving on a completely different type of energy. Street Talk says he's been struggling heavy behind the scenes, dealing with serious personal issues that clearly started affecting his judgment and impulse control in a major way. When unresolved beef, ego, and reckless choices collide, it creates straight crash-out behavior that can tear down everything someone worked for. That's exactly the vibe people felt when Kodak suddenly dropped a diss track aimed directly at Boosie Badazz. Timing alone raised eyebrows everywhere. Dropping that record the day before Boosie had to be in court looked calculated, like he was intentionally trying to pile stress onto an already tense situation. In the song, Kodak didn't dance around the issue at all. He went straight for personal shots that crossed multiple lines. He claimed Boosie was bitter because he couldn't sign him back in the day, suggesting jealousy over Kodak blowing up without needing Boosie's help or cosign. That alone hit deep, but he kept pushing. Kodak also questioned Boosie's status as an OG, calling out how he moves and indirectly attacking his leadership and credibility in the culture. In street terms, that's a serious accusation. He even painted Boosie as washed and irrelevant, claiming the only time people pay attention is when he mentions bigger names like Kodak himself or NBA Youngboy. Musically, people admitted the track sounded smooth, but the message was clearly meant to sting. This wasn't just lyrical competition. It was designed to hurt Boosie personally and professionally. Kodak knew exactly which buttons to press, and he chose the worst possible moment to press all of them at once.
8.
Boosie didn't let that slide for a second. He jumped straight on social media and let everything fly, posting a string of heated tweets that showed just how upset he was. His first reaction called out the timing, saying it was weak to drop a diss right before a court date and accusing Kodak of chasing attention at the worst moment possible. Boosie went further, questioning Kodak's mental state and calling him reckless, which is about as disrespectful as it gets in hip-hop talk. But he didn't stop there at all, followed up by clowning Kodak's music, saying nobody is checking for his new songs anymore, and laughing at the idea of anyone replaying his latest drops. Then came the really personal shots. Boosie went after Kodak's appearance, his relevance, and his place in the culture, saying the only time his name trends is when he mentions Boosie or bigger artists. That's a direct attempt to strip someone of status, and everybody watching felt how savage that was. The coldest moment came when Boosie compared Kodak's situation to a character waiting on bad news, referencing New Jack City. That line hit hard because it painted a picture of someone spiraling while waiting for consequences to catch up. And it left the whole culture stunned watching this beef spiral even further out of control. You gonna be up all night smoking that chatter? Wishing bad on me? That line summed up the energy perfectly, because Boosie Badazz painted a brutal picture of Kodak Black sitting by the phone, hoping for bad news about his court situation. The message was clear and cold. Boosie framed Kodak as obsessed, stressed, and waiting on karma instead of focusing on his own path. Then Boosie went even harder with what many consider the ultimate street-level disrespect. He made it clear that one thing would never happen to him, saying he wouldn't be checking into PC. In street terms, PC means protective custody, and that statement was a direct shot at Kodak's reputation, implying that Boosie wouldn't need protection behind bars the way others might. That's questioning someone's toughness at the highest level possible. The hashtag said everything without needing explanation. CCC, short for clout-chasing crackhead, became a full-blown label. Boosie didn't just insult Kodak, he created a whole acronym just to disrespect him. That alone showed how deep the anger and disappointment really ran. Now this is where the situation turns from loud internet beef into something far more serious. We have to talk about Boosie's son, Tootie Raw. This is the same young man currently facing serious federal weapons charges that read like something straight out of a video game inventory. We're talking possession of sawed-off weapons, machine guns, silencers, and obstruction of law enforcement officers. These aren't state charges that get quietly negotiated down. Federal weapons cases, especially involving machine guns and silencers, come with mandatory minimums that judges can't simply reduce. This is decades on the line, not a slap on the wrist. Any smart move would have been laying low, hiring the best lawyers, and staying far away from attention. Instead, Tootie jumped headfirst into his father's beef. That's textbook crash-out behavior. He took an already dangerous legal situation and poured gasoline on it by going public. On Instagram, Tootie posted statements claiming he was really outside, telling people to ask around about him, and saying he would put that belt down, which in street language is a direct reference to ending someone permanently. He also said he didn't post pictures of what he had and added "we" on "why all," which is a direct threat while out on federal bond. That kind of language doesn't get ignored by prosecutors. That gets screenshots, timestamps, and added to case files. Here's the part a lot of people overlook. Tootie has been trying to prove his street credibility for years. In comment sections, people openly clown him, calling him soft, and saying he grew up privileged and never had to struggle. That kind of disrespect eats at someone who's desperate to be taken seriously. Things crossed into truly dangerous territory when Lil Crick entered the picture. Crick is connected to Kodak's circle in Florida, and when he started laughing at Tootie's threats and reposting them, the temperature jumped instantly. What most people didn't know is this wasn't new. Tootie had been trying to get at Lil Crick since 2023. This wasn't a one-day reaction or a heat-of-vomit post. Screenshots later shared showed months of messages, harassment, and repeated attempts to start problems. Lil Crick didn't take him seriously at first and ignored the messages, which only made things worse. Being ignored hit Tootie's ego even harder, pushing him deeper into desperation. Eventually, the messages escalated into direct threats, with Tootie sending lines questioning Crick's toughness and warning him not to get it confused, implying serious consequences. At that point, it became clear this wasn't just about defending his father anymore. This was about a young man searching for validation through aggression, risking everything he had left while the entire hip-hop community watched this situation spiral closer to real-life consequences. Come to the AM play and see what happens. On my soul, you not making it back. That message alone made a lot of people sit up straight, because it wasn't vague at all. Another message followed right behind it, just as reckless, saying he wasn't even going to look for anyone. But if they pulled up, it would be handled 100%, and they wouldn't make it back. That's not internet trash talk. That's direct language that gets people nervous fast. He kept going, throwing insults about money and deals, saying certain rappers were signed and still broke, while he claimed he never signed anything and was richer. Whether that's true or not doesn't even matter at that point, because the tone was pure aggression and ego mixed together. The messages weren't about competition anymore. They were about dominance and humiliation. But the most chilling message was the last one, because it exposed his real mindset. He talked about being ready to make an example out of a rapper, saying he's been waiting a long time to face someone and go viral from it. He said every day he feels ready to hurt anyone who tries him and dared someone to test if he was serious. That's the moment where everything crossed into truly dangerous territory. That message showed it clearly. This wasn't just anger or emotion. He wasn't talking about protecting himself or his family. He was talking about becoming famous through violence. That's the most dangerous mentality there is. Someone who sees harming another person as a shortcut to respect, attention, and online clout is unpredictable and extremely risky. What he really wants is for the internet to stop seeing him as Boosie Badazz's son and start seeing him as someone to fear. That desire alone explains why he's moving so reckless and saying things that can be taken back once screenshots exist. To understand why Tootie Raw is spiraling like this, you have to understand the pressure that comes with being a celebrity-esque child in hip-hop culture. People automatically assume you're soft if you grew up with money, security, and opportunities. They don't see struggle, they see privilege. To a lot of people, Tootie isn't viewed as someone who earned respect the hard way. You see a kid who lived in nice houses, had access to things most people didn't, and never had to survive the way his father did. In their eyes, he's not a street figure. He's a suburban kid trying to play tough. The comments reflect that non-stop. People clown him daily, calling him fake, soft, and protected by his dad's name and money. That kind of constant disrespect builds pressure over time. When someone is desperate to be taken seriously, they start doing extreme things just to flip the narrative. What makes this situation even more complicated is that Boosie really did expose him to that environment early in life. Tootie was around street energy at a very young age, watching how his father moved and handled things. So he's not completely disconnected from that world the way some celebrity kids are. But here's the part Tootie doesn't seem to fully grasp. Boosie paid a heavy price to build that reputation. He did real time, lost real friends, and survived real consequences. That respect wasn't handed to him. It was earned through pain and sacrifice. Tootie wants the respect without understanding the cost. He wants the reputation without the years of loss behind it. And that's where things break down, because the streets don't respect shortcuts. On top of that, Boosie has always tried to protect his kids from the same life that nearly destroyed him. From his point of view, that protection is love. But from Tootie's perspective, it feels like doubt, like his father doesn't believe he's tough enough. That misunderstanding creates resentment. And that resentment pushes him even harder to prove himself in the loudest, most dangerous way possible. Instead of listening to experience, he's chasing validation. And that's exactly how situations like this spiral out of control fast. Let's talk about the cold reality of Tootie's situation, because from a legal standpoint, this is already past the danger zone. He's facing serious federal weapons charges that alone could land him in prison for 10 to 20 years minimum. That's before factoring in everything else. Now add in public threats posted online, and prosecutors suddenly have exactly what they love to see when arguing someone is a danger to society. Every Instagram post, every message, every reckless statement is being saved, logged, and stacked right now. Federal prosecutors don't ignore that stuff. They use it to paint a clear picture that Tootie is exactly the type of individual these gun laws were designed to stop. Someone using weapons and intimidation to threaten others instead of de-escalating the situation. For people who aren't familiar with federal gun laws, this part is critical. Possession of sawed-off weapons and silencers isn't minor at all. Those charges come with mandatory minimum sentences, meaning judges don't get to show mercy even if they wanted to. Once you add an alleged machine gun charge into the mix, you're no longer talking years, you're talking decades. Making public threats while out on bond only makes things worse. That's how bonds get revoked and additional charges get added fast. Turns a bad situation into a catastrophic one overnight. This whole beef involving Kodak Black, Boosie Badazz, and Tootie Raw has become a bigger symbol of what's wrong in hip-hop culture right now. We have created an environment where young men feel like they have to prove their authenticity through violence and criminal behavior instead of talent, discipline, and hard work. That mindset is dangerous, and it spreads fast. The streets are watching this play out in real time, and it's sending the wrong message to the next generation. When celebrity kids talk about harming people for internet attention, what does that say to kids who don't have money, lawyers, or safety nets? That's the part nobody wants to address. There's nothing legendary about throwing your life away for street credibility. Tootie has access to resources most people will never have. He could be building businesses, creating opportunities, and helping his community grow. Instead, he's chasing the same destructive patterns that nearly ruined his father's life. At the end of the day, this isn't really about defending family honor or proving toughness. This is about a young man with every advantage choosing the most dangerous path possible because of pressure, insecurity, and a deep need for validation. What started as a debate over principles and business decisions in hip-hop has now evolved into something far more serious. When threats and legal consequences enter the picture, the conversation stops being entertainment and starts becoming real life. And once the federal system locks in, there's no rewinding the clock. This situation is way bigger than one family's drama, and that's the part people keep skipping over. This is about a culture that keeps glorifying violence and making young men feel like they have to prove themselves through criminal behavior instead of growth, discipline, and talent. Till that narrative changes, we're going to keep watching gifted young men throw their futures away for short-term respect that doesn't last. The real question everyone should be asking is simple but heavy. Will Tootie Raw learn from his father's mistakes? Or will he have to experience the system firsthand to understand that this lifestyle doesn't lead anywhere positive? Because once threats turn into actions, there's no undo button. At that point, we're not talking rumors or posts, we're talking life-altering consequences. If he actually follows through on any of these threats, the outcome could be devastating. Multiple life sentences, families destroyed, or someone's child never making it home. Boosie Badazz already went through the worst parts of that life, paid the price, and came out trying to build something better. That's the part people forget. Now his son appears to be heading down the same road, possibly even faster and louder, while already facing serious federal charges. That's not toughness. That's reckless decision-making with permanent consequences. The streets don't reward that, they bury it. So where does accountability land? Should Boosie step in harder and try to shut this down completely? Or is Tootie old enough to face the results of his own choices? That's a tough question, because protection can sometimes feel like doubt, and freedom can sometimes feel like abandonment. And the bigger question matters even more. What does this say about how young men are raised and validated in hip-hop culture today? When violence becomes a shortcut to attention, something is broken at the foundation. At the end of the day, this isn't about proving who's real or who's tough. It's about survival, growth, and breaking cycles before they repeat themselves again. One wrong move can erase everything, and history has already shown how this story usually ends.